Okay, for 7-1, if you have a 0, if you have any number and you raise it to the 0 power, it's always going to be 1. And for a negative exponent tells you to switch the location of the base and make the exponent positive. So let's see how these properties come into play. When you have an exponent, it usually tells you how many times to multiply your base together. So if I have a power of 3, I'm going to take that base with 2 and multiply it by itself 3 times. Some students get super confused and they try to multiply the exponent and the base, and that is not going to give you the right answer. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Because 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. So when we have 2 times 2, 4. And 2 to the first power is just 2. Let's take a look at what a negative exponent will do. So if I have a negative exponent, I'm going to flip it. So you're either going to flip I'm going to flip it to the other side. And I know that sounds crazy, but right now it's on the top. So this is like negative 2 to the negative 3 over 1. I'm going to pull it down into the numerator. So when I pull it down into the numerator, I'm just left with a 1 on the top. You don't get a 0 on the top because it's like, well, there's a times 1 up there. So 2 to the negative 3 becomes 1 over 2/3. And then we got a positive exponent. So I had 2 to the negative 3. I move that 2 to the negative 3 down, and it's 1 over 2 to the 3. And then you do the same exponent rules to get the final answer. It's equal to 1 over 8. So let's go ahead and try to do that with 2 to the negative 2. That's the same as 1 over 2 to the positive 2. That's 1 over 2 times 2, or 1 over 4. And 2 to the negative 1 is equal to 1 over 2 to the first power, and that's equal to 1 half. So what we need to notice is the relationship between our two items. So notice 2 to the third is 8, and 2 to the negative third is 1/8. 2 squared is 4, and 2 to the negative 2 is 1/4. 2 to the 1 is 2, and 2 to the negative 1 is 1/2. So can you guys see a relationship between the answers to those?
Yes.
It's really important in math that we look at and identify relationships. All right, let's make this easy. What is the answer to the first two?
0.
1.
1. 1.
And define. We don't take the 0 power of 0. That is like a calculus problem, and it's not dealt with. We don't do this because it says every non-zero number. So in this case, I will never give this to you. Okay. Because anything to the 0 power is, except for 0, is 0. Okay. Let me pause the line. All right, let's do a few of these together. What is the simplified form of each expression? We're going to move this 9 down to the denominator and square it. That gives us 1 over 81. going to take the 7 to the 1 power, move it down to the denominator, move this x to the 3rd power, down into, so the negative doesn't mean that we're going to get a negative answer. It means that we're going to get fraction. 2 to the 4th is 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2, which is 8, times 2 is 16. And this guy, piece of cake, equals 1. All right, you guys take a moment and do these problems. All right, any questions about this? Okay. Simplifying exponential expressions. What is the simplified form of each expression? When you have a negative exponent, that is not in simplest form. So if you look at your problem and it's got a negative exponent, we have to move them. If they're in the denominator, we got to move them to the numerator. If they're in the numerator, we got to move them to the denominator. We got to move them to get it all to be considered simplified. So we're going to take our negative exponents, we're going to bump them to make them positive. The ones that are already positive just stay where they are. The ones that are negative go down to become positive. If the positive is in the denominator, we bring it up and make it positive. So that is the same as x to the 5th over 1. I will show you why that works. If I have 1 over x to the 5th, so I go ahead and I move that down. When I'm dividing, this is a 5th grade skill, 6th grade skill. When I'm dividing by a fraction, so we got 1 divided by 1 over x to the 5th, it's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So the reason why when I have a denominator, if I pull that up and make it positive, the reason why it works is because if you leave it where it stands, you're going to end up flipping that and making it same it in the top anyway. For our purposes, you can just skip this process and write it in the numerator positive. Okay, so give these ones a whirl. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to, and we'll check our answers in a second. Read the negative 9. What is that, my friends? Throw it out. Let's go. One over b to the 9. What stays on top in this one here? 4 and b. There's nothing wrong with their exponents. That doggone c to the 3rd. That needs to come downstairs. The n comes down and is now buddies with m. M is already positive, so he's going to stay where he's at. If they have positive exponents, they stay. If they have negative exponents, they move. 1 over n to the negative 3, what is that, y'all? 3. And this 2 is going to stay right where it's at, and the a to the 3 is going to come up and hang out with it. All right, give you guys a self-score out of 5. Okay, so now we're going to put numbers in and have to solve out these little algebra equations. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to simplify this. So I'm not putting crazy numbers in and then simplifying. So we're going to put in 2 for s and negative 3 for t. So we're going to have 3 times 2 to the 3rd power. and we're going to have negative 3 squared. 2 to the third power, we did that on the previous page. It's 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So this is 3 times 8. And then negative 3 squared is negative 3 times negative 3, which is positive 9. The reason I didn't go ahead and multiply the 3 times 8 is I know 3 goes into 9 and 3 goes into 3. And the simplified answer is 8/5. You can also write it as 2 and 2/3. 2 and 2/3. Okay, so you guys are going to do the same thing for these 4 problems. Make sure you move the problems first and then plug in the numbers. Okay. We're going to simplify it first. W to the 0 is 1. N to the 4 on the bottom. So we know n is equal to negative 2. So negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. 1 over 16. We're going to simplify this guy. We know that this is equal to 1. We have w to the 6th power. So when you calculate that out, you have 15,625. Whatever. Okay, so we are going to take this negative and move it down to make it positive. It's going to be 1 over n times w squared. N is negative 2. W is 5. That is negative 2 times 25, which is negative 50. Well, this is fun. Okay, last one. The w comes up because it's negative, so it's w to the first power over n. W is 5, n is negative 2. And those are the answers.